I'm always on the lookout for non English content that might go under the radar. Everyone Will Burn is a Spanish horror that was made in 2021, but is now just coming to on demand. It's dark and twisted, but also draws on iconic themes. So is it worth checking out? A once peaceful Spanish village is thrown into chaos as the appearance of a strange girl with dark powers threatens to fulfill a prophecy that would bring about the end of the world. This stars Macarena Gomez, who you may recognize from HBO's 30 Coins or Treinta Monedas, or even the Lovecraftian movie Dagon. Now, here, she's a woman dealing with some depression and grief when she comes across a girl named Lucia, who is intent on calling her mom. Now, Lucia, she's a bit of an odd one. She seems to have some supernatural abilities that are great for her, but typically very painful and bad for anybody who crosses her. Now, Gomez is Maria Jose, and she lives in this town that adheres to the superstitious belief that the apocalypse is going to happen if the townspeople don't sacrifice a child. So, right off the bat, this is a messed up storyline. And many of the townspeople are zealots within this belief, which at one point conjured up a little bit of the old school monster movie vibe, where the town bands together to track down and try and kill their supposed monster. Now, when the chase is on, or the townspeople are scheming and getting caught up in their own fervor, the story has some decent tension and urgency. But there are portions where the pace drags, especially as there are back and forth repetitious conversations. And that's when the 2 hour and 5 minute runtime, it becomes noticeable. And most of the time, there's a good, unsettled tone, and that's enhanced by Maria Jose and Lucia's interactions and their behaviors. Now, Gomez is wonderful as Maria Jose, but through a lot of this, she's overacting. I mean, just making large and grandiose expressions that lean towards the melodramatic. There's a lot of screaming and yelling, which sometimes works against the drama. And other times, her hysterics fit well, and they complement the emotion of a scene, needing to showcase extreme behaviors thanks to severe situations. Now, I appreciate the mystery that's inherent in the story. There's a definite supernatural vibe to the plot, but Lucia, who is at the center of this story, she might be the reincarnation of someone important to Maria Jose, or she just might be the harbinger of the apocalypse. Now, Sofia Garcia, who plays Lucia, she nails just the creepy side-eye looks that signal bad things for those who are threatening the family. And as the film progresses, we get to witness more and more from Lucia, giving just a ton of credence to the townspeople's belief that she needs to die. Now, the violence is spread pretty evenly throughout the story, where we get to see some abrupt and crazy imagery that then maintains the unsettling vibe, as well as reinforces the idea that there's something very wrong or off with Lucia. Now, there's one creatively executed sequence towards the end where we hear all sorts of violence and commotion, but we only get to witness the aftermath. Now, while I would have liked to have seen some of the carnage taking place, it was also kind of cool to just see the bodily destruction afterwards. So, as the camera spins around locations, we don't always get to see full bodies. I mean, the camera doesn't tilt up or down, it just pans in one direction. So, sometimes we see just legs and feet hanging down at the top of the frame, or maybe we see people slumped over on the ground, not fully knowing the extent of their destruction. And I like that it puts some of the story back into my imagination, that I got to choose my own picture for the gore, as well as how it all went down. Now, I do know that it can be a cop-out, though, as a way to just not have to choreograph fights and violence. You just have to stage the characters to showcase their end. Now, most of what we watch is also done through practical effects, making them so much more real and vibrant. A couple of times we see some body parts bend in very unnatural ways. Pretty sure these moments it's accomplished through CGI, but on the whole, everything has a tangible feel to it. There are some unique and disturbingly framed shots, too, like when we observe a character in a room, but the angle is looking down at them from an elevated angle. And it's slightly voyeuristic, but also one that feels a lot like we're witnessing something that we shouldn't necessarily be privy to. There's also this sex scene that has an extremely odd alternating shot of the participants' faces. I mean, it's intimate and very close up, but it also excels at creating a lot of discomfort. Now, I appreciate how the themes of grief and superstition, mixed with intense fear, work to build a dark story that delves deep into the intense religious dogmas. I mean, the feeling of loss that we witness Maria Jose relive, it's sad and obsessive, but it also has that sting of truth where we watch a person experience just profound mourning. And just like some of the acting, the music, it can be over the top and extremely cheesy at points. Like when a villain comes onto the screen and we get this dum 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 sound. I mean, it's cheap and it did break me out of the story, but it's also kind of consistent with the tone of the overall movie where it rides that line of creepy and campy. And there's also sort of a whimsical tone to parts of it. I mean, it makes the emotions confusing because amidst tragedy or impending violence, these cutesy moments are shared between characters. Now, if you're looking for straight up horror and gore, this doesn't provide a lot of that. Much of the freakiness comes from the atmosphere that's established, and then the wonky imagery combined with the unsettling plot. Now, I don't count this as a negative, but it is worth noting, especially with some of the marketing images that are present. There appears to be a lot of blood and brutality, but it's not as prevalent as those suggest. Now, there's a mid credit scene that helps to close the circle on the story, which I think is nice because before the credits roll, the ending, it's vague and just incomplete. So overall, the tone of the story and the callbacks to older monster movie hysteria work to create an ominous and engaging narrative. The acting is sometimes overdone, and the music can be a little too on the nose, but the general aesthetic is crafted well, creating an atmosphere that's reminiscent of The Wicker Man, The Crucible, or even Werewolves Within. When hysteria is combined with overwhelming grief and supernatural elements, the effect is unsettling thanks to his disturbingly dark performance from Sofia Garcia. This isn't the scariest or bloodiest movie of the year, but if you're looking for something a little different from the run of the mill horrors, give Everyone Will Burn a go. There's sex, maybe some very brief nudity, a bunch of profanity, and a lot of violence. I give Everyone Will Burn 3.5 out of 5 couches. So have you seen any good non-English horrors or thrillers lately that you could recommend? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed this review, please give it a like. Also, don't forget to share and subscribe. I'm Chris. This is Movies and Munchies. Thanks for couching with me.